Good morning. Happy Sabbath. There you go. It is 11:11, so we will start. And welcome to everyone who's here. And I was about to say, welcome to those who aren't here. They would be welcome if they were here. It sounds like I'm being restricted. But anyway, so glad to be back. We were, those educators among us took a side trip to hell for the week. And we are back, and it's nice to be here. Back in paradise, and nothing was so clear as leaving at one temperature and arriving 50 degrees difference. That was kind of stunning, getting up in the morning at one temperature, and literally by the evening it was like, wow, it's 50 degrees warmer here than when I left in the morning, which was sort of stunning. But we are glad to be back. We look forward to next week, teacher dedication. So far that I know on the agenda, Mauricio will be speaking, or somebody, and we will have kind of a dedication service for that. So next weekend, for us, big kickoff. I know actually Thunderbird actually starts school already. They have their move-in on Sunday of students and start on Monday because they're usually a week ahead. That's where my cousin is at. It's like, wow, good for you guys. Anyway, we get one more sort of week, and then we're rolling. So our international kids come in this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and they have their orientation stuff. And we have kids coming in on Sunday for our registration and hit the ground on Monday. And I think you guys are Monday as well? Yes? Oh, you guys are actually starting this Thursday. Oh, we will have a special prayer for you then. Because, wow. I didn't realize. So VHM is starting early. So mine. Okay, all right. I will take it. I'm sure you know what you're talking about. I don't know of any other particular announcements other than glad you're. Yes, sorry. Oh, yeah. I mentioned that, and but seeing you raise your hand reminded me. There is, and if you notice the announcements, right? So there's a dedication service, and it says potluck following, and then there's a special slide that just talks about the potluck. Ding, right there. So thank you for pointing that out and reminding me. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead and finish your thought. I had a question.
You know what? Go ahead.
Any update on pastor search?
Go ahead. And we want to, I should put that, I know it says Fred, but it's me because I haven't seen Fred yet this morning. Anyway, but we also want to keep in mind that it's not just MBA. I mean, that's where we're at, but Watsonville's been without a pastor, and Santa Cruz, so this whole area could use some prayer for shepherds. I'm not sure what it says about, but anyway, it is what it is. So I think about that. It's like, wow, it's just, from the outside, it might look pretty bad. Wow, there's a mass exodus. What's going on over there? No, just it's what do you call it? Whatever of events. What's the word I'm looking for, you guys? What's when conversions of events that just happen. It's not anything particular nefarious going on. All right, I'm going to try to keep things a little shorter. In fact, I'm mentally taking one of the songs out of the playlist because we have two mission spotlights, because we have an update from Maui. If you have been living under a rock or just quietly somewhere, I guess, you might have missed the fact that there's been a huge disaster. It could be the largest. I haven't heard the actual totality. As far as people lost, yes, but the largest ever loss of human life in Maui was a little over 100, I was reading out, and the last count I knew for guaranteed was in the 60s and 70s. So they're like, well, this 80 this morning? Wow. And I did have some classmates who were there, and their parents, his parents, Wilcox, who lived over there. I haven't gotten anything, because as far as I understand, the communication is basically down unless they have a sat phone. So I'm just kind of like hoping that they are, Kevin and Lyric and their parents or his parents are okay. So we have an update on Maui, and then we also have outdoor outreach in Serbia. It's kind of cool, some stuff that's happening in there in the progress, which to me is kind of cool because one of the towns they mentioned is a place that I had gone to present on teaching Bible curriculum, and particularly on the Great Controversy in 2015 to that division of the Adventist work. So it's kind of cool to see some stuff that's happening there now. So first off, update on Maui, and then we'll do the outdoor outreach in Serbia, and then I'm going to come back for scripture and prayer requests, so you can be thinking about not just Maui, but maybe some things in your own life, and we can have some praise and sharing. So things that are going great, you want to tuck those away, or things that where you're like, man, I could really have some camaraderie is not the word I'm looking for. Wow, I'm just out of words. Companionship in the struggles of life that I'm living on this journey. All right, so first up, update on Maui.
Hey folks, Pastor Mark Tamalea here, Hawaii Conference Youth Director, Hawaii ACS. Just wanted to give you a little bit of update. You know, the church is still standing and God has spared our actual worship area inside, just totally untouched. But that's about it on the good news. There's just quite a bit of devastation around us. Pastor Eric, our conference president, Pastor Ben Williams, they're delivering some supplies and other things with Uncle Danny over here on the west side of the island. And then also we've got Mario, who's cooking up hot meals and coordinating that effort with the Kaului Church. And so we're using that as an evacuation center. So right now we have about just over 40 plus people that are there right now that we're housing. So just pray for us is the first thing I'll say. And then the second thing I'll say is we're going to need you for the long term. So just hang in there. I know some of you just want to jump on a plane, get over here, and what it does is it creates a little bit more work for what we're doing right now. But just know that, you know, this isn't for the 2-3 day, you know, recovery efforts and relief. No, we're going to be here long term for our people here in Lahaina and here in Maui. And so we're going to need your financial support. Please give generously. We have a website that we're going to put up for you guys that you can continue to give and support. And we'll keep you updated. Thank you so much. Have a happy Sabbath.
You don't want to take advantage of people's times of distress, but it's at those times of distress where sometimes people are most open to understanding who God is as a good God, and you can step in for that. Just something to keep in mind. Outdoor outreach in
Adventists in Serbia have made meaningful connections with people through healthy activities. Health clubs have drawn a lot of interest from the community. Groups go hiking, exercise together, hold health lectures, and conduct cooking demonstrations. If not for these activities, it's likely that the participants might never meet an Adventist or be exposed to the Adventist message.
Here it's important to actually build the friendship first, and then you can say who you are. Otherwise, they will reject you from the start.
Personal connection is how Jesus ministered when he was on earth. So these church members are following his lead by implementing Christ's method of ministry. This is the key to building relationships, especially in the growing cities like Belgrade, where people tend to stay focused on their own busy lives.
This is a community that lives in big buildings, so there are a lot of skyscrapers here that has a lot of people there. It's a very, very big area to actually outreach to. There are a lot of people who actually lives here and don't know anything about God. They are not that religious. People don't want to actually learn and search for God because we live in that kind of society now that no one wants to know about God. So it's hard to actually talk about with people who doesn't know or who don't even want to know about God. So that's a challenge here, and it is a secular country.
Just a few years ago, the area known as Novi Belgrade had no Adventist church. Anytime church members who lived in this part of the city wanted to gather, they had to travel far to get to the nearest church. In 2020, a portion of your 13th Sabbath offering helped establish a church in Novi Belgrade. They were able to get a space with 2 levels and are in the process of renovating the lower level to be an urban center of influence.
It means a lot to us because we have our own services. We can invite friends. The facility is very good, and we are very grateful to God that it has 2 levels. The upper one, where we are now, where the services are held, and the lower part, which is convenient for various activities.
So this is going to be a center of influence. We are going to have the health clubs here, and we are going to teach people how to cook healthy food and maybe some kind of crafts as well, because there are a lot of people here that likes crafts, like making soaps from the healthy ingredients, as well as decoupage and quilling as well.
Your contributions to the 13th Sabbath offering have already been received with gratitude. The new space feels like home to this congregation, and hopefully it will allow them to grow.
I am very grateful to those that helped us, all the brothers and sisters from all over the world, because this is a big municipality where we are and where our church was not. Believe that we have prayed for over 20 years. We have prayed to have this church, and that's why we are also ready to give our offerings to those who also need to have their own church. I have so much gratitude. Thank you.
Well, I'm grateful to God that He gave those people will to actually give, and that He inspired them to give. And that actually tells us that we have to work and to justify what we've got, and that we have to actually pray for God to actually use us where we are and to fill this building so that we have to find another one.
Please pray for this church as they soon open an urban center of influence in a new part of Belgrade. Thank you for giving to the 13th Sabbath offering in 2020 and making this congregation's dream become reality.
They are that was our in on some of the stuff we were doing there, very health and interested in food and as part of how that works with your understanding of salvation. All right. Now, this morning we also have a special video. So this is Christian Record Services. If you're not familiar with Christian Record Services, we used to call it, Braille. So this is an Adventist mission that produces both Braille material, but not just for people who have lost sight, but also for those hard of hearing. So they'll have books and stuff on tape, and there's people who are reading that. And that is the offering this morning.
The first thing I think as church leaders, as members, we need to understand is that because I am blind, I don't get a free pass to heaven. I think a lot of people have the concept, well, look, you're already seeing hell because you're blind. There's no way Jesus can allow you to be lost, no matter how bad you are. But it doesn't work like that. Blind people are sinners in need of a savior.
My struggles have been dealing with society's poor expectations of me as a blind person, and they're really poor. And I smile at it now because I've accepted that this is what it is, and my role is to help educate and inspire. Why camp is so ginormous in the life of a blind person? They get to touch things that they would have probably never experienced before. Like being able to touch a horse and ride on it, being able to touch a boat and actually get into the water and hear the engine roar. I mean, when I say it's a life-changing experience, it's huge. There are blind campers that I interact with that plan for the next year's camp a year in advance. They call their friends months ahead and talk about all the different things they want to do. Well, I'm going to do the rock wall. And me, I'm going to try the zip line. I realized a lot of blind people, they didn't have church homes. So they don't have a church. They don't have a sense of community. A lot of blind people don't even leave their homes for months. You know, so the four walls closing on them. And the Lord just gave me an insight. What if we can have a number they can call and they can listen to the Spirit of Prophecy, they can listen to the Sabbath School Quarterly, and we call it Phone Faith, and blind people from around the country, blind individuals, 98% unchurched and non-Adventists, right? And we were able to get blind people in programs, get them in college, just amazing things. And more importantly, we connected them to Jesus. The physically challenged, the blind, they need Jesus, and Jesus gives them hope. And if you get that, if you wrap that around your mind, if you inculcate that thought and that perspective, then you can come alongside Christian Record Service and say, look, how could we help reach blind people in our communities? I deeply value the services of Christian Record Service since 1899, that God established such an institution in our world church, that they have chosen to minister to the blind, knowing that blind people are sinners and are equally in need of a Savior. And we too need to know that Christ came to seek and to save those who are lost. And that includes us. And the gifts that you give today, not later or when you think about it, but today, when you give those gifts, it goes to the production of tools and materials that go directly to the blind and enable this unreached, ignored, and invisible community. It enables us as blind people to see Jesus.
I love that last line. Enables us as blind to see Jesus. So our offering will be in the back. Thank you, offering plate. All I could see was a wooden bowl with a little red felt kind of, or green felt, I think is. Anyway, yeah. Whoo! We start school when? Oh my goodness. Yeah. All right. So, Scripture. Numbers 23:20, and I'll be reading from the King James because that's just what's in front of me. You have the NIV in front of you, or you can use whatever version. I think John usually uses like New King James, so he may in fact read it again, which is totally fine from his. So here we go. Behold, I have received commandment to bless, and he hath blessed, and I cannot reverse it. All right. Prayer requests, prayer thanks. This is that time. First off, obviously, Maui and those who are there, and our school starting, whether it's VHM this week or MBA. Well, technically, our international students come in on Tuesday, but whether our registration on Sunday or whatever else. So those are things to pray for. Any other prayers, thanks, good things, not just necessarily requests? Either we're all gun shy or your life is going great. So we'll thank God for that. Yes. It's always kind of a miracle when you think of it. You put yourself in the hands of an unknown stranger and hurtle yourself through a tin can through the air, and then you land. All hoping Bernoulli is still right with all of that. So yes, we are glad to be here. And safely there and then safely back. Yeah. Okay, let's pray. Father God, thank you for today. Thank you that it's a Sabbath. Thank you that we don't have to go somewhere. We don't have to climb some mountain. We don't have to bathe in some river. We don't have to kneel before a wall. We don't have to climb a particular place or go somewhere. You come to us every week like you do. A representative, a symbol of salvation, and you coming to us. Time comes to us, you in this moment and the Sabbath. Thank you for that gift. In your name, amen. All right.
I think I forgot to give Daniel the title of my little talk. That was last week, so it was a good one. Should have been here if you weren't. I really enjoyed it. In fact, if you want to say it again, I wouldn't mind listening to it again, but here I am. Welcome everyone once again. I have to say it is nice being back here on the coast, although I do have to say I was feeling, I don't want to say nostalgic or like a homecoming. I used to live in Phoenix, and so after a little while, it's like, yeah, I remember this now. I'm used to this. The colors, the sights, everything is all coming back. Like, oh yeah, that mountain over there. I remember walking around. So it was really cool to go to Phoenix, my old stomping grounds when I was in college, believe it or not. And then, but it is nice to be back here. For those who don't know me, because I see some faces sort of unfamiliar, but then maybe I am too. My name is John Carrillo. I'm a teacher at something 8th grade teacher at VHM Christian School in Santa Cruz, and I'm also a member here at this church. Somebody said, we needed someone to speak this Sabbath, and I was willing to. Hey, sure, I'll help out. So that's why I'm here sharing with you. And I don't think it'll be very long, but then I think it's more like a devotional thought. I always say that, but I seem to go on. So I probably shouldn't even have said that, because now you're like, will it be short or like, no, I don't know, we'll find out. All right, so the idea is God's plan for us. Many of us are, well, if you're part of the school system, school is starting. It's a whole new journey, whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a student, a child, it's a transition to something new, and we always wonder, is this God's plan? How's this going to turn out? I know what I want, but is this how it's going to be? In Ecclesiastes 12:13, the very last verse, almost last verse, the very last chapter of the book of Ecclesiastes, which is I think that's I don't know, you guys can correct me. That's the Greek, I believe, for preacher, the preacher, which I think the Hebrew is like colette or something like that, something around that. Anyway, doesn't matter, but our whole duty in verse 13 of Ecclesiastes 12 is this: to fear God or obey God, respect God, and keep his commandments. That's all we're asked to do. And then everything else, like, I forget this Jewish friend of mine, everything else is just commentary that's in the Bible. Fear God and keep his commandments. Or how to do it. There's more to it, of course. But when I think of our plans, I think of, we'll call her a friend. She wanted to get out of the house so bad that she enlisted in the Navy. And of course, if you enlist in the military, there's certain physical health requirements you need. One of them is having arched feet, I believe, which I don't think she had, but she was so determined, like, no, I need to leave, I want to go away, I want to go to the Navy, travel, that she, as she took the physical, she stood there with her flat feet, as she says, right there at the physical exam, but what she did, somehow she'd been practicing before, kind of standing on, angling her feet in such a position that it gave the appearance of an arch when there really wasn't any there. Even the recruiter person or the soldier there said, all right, go ahead and stand regular. I am. Are you sure? Yeah, okay. And then, so she actually did go in the Navy. And I think to this day, that was years and years ago, I think to this day though, now that she's out, she has some problems with her knees, because I guess there's a reason you have to pass up. But she was so determined to do what she felt she needed to do, that it almost didn't matter the cost that happened to her. So the story that kept coming to mind, I wouldn't let go, was a story I think you all know. It begins in Numbers 22. If you have your Bibles, you can go there, and you can read it. I think it's a good story. There's a lot of background to it, a lot of lessons. But Numbers 22, this is the children of Israel. They're traveling around the desert. They're finally nearing the end of their journey in the wilderness to go into the promised land. But they're not there yet. They've been going, and as they've been nearing the promised land, had taken a detour here because they weren't allowed to go, and people were afraid of them, so they would attack the children of Israel, and they would fight back. And of course, they were blessed by God, and they won. They defeated all the enemies that attacked them. Israel didn't go and attack them on that side of the Jordan. They were walking, minding their own business, and they were being attacked, and they fought back and won. And they finally were there at the border here's Jericho and the Jordan River, and they were just on the other side. They're ready to go in, but one of the nations, Moab, I believe, was just to the south. They were really afraid because they saw how the Israelites took over everything. So the king, Zippor of Moab, the king, he was really worried, nervous. He needed some sort of power. As a pagan, you believe that you pray to statues or whatever it might be, and that's where you get power. Even some Christians today pray to statues, or rub a toe here or pray to a relic there, and they have some sort of supernatural power. In this case, they thought that could happen as well. Like, well, we need something to fight because we see this as supernatural. We need something just as supernatural. So they sent word. They heard there was a sort of prophet that could help them out way over on the other side of, the Bible says, the river, but that's known as the Euphrates River in Mesopotamia. And if you know I don't have a map or slides or anything, so use your imagination. So the Jordan is here, they're parked over here, you cross the Arabian desert, go up a little bit, way out here is, the Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers. And Euphrates is right there. And so the king sent a messenger. Okay, we got to recruit this guy. He's going to help us. We know he talks to God, so maybe he can influence and curse this people so we could win. And so they ended up going, he sent some messengers to Balaam. Now, Balaam at one point was, if you read in Patriarchs and Prophets, he was at one point a servant of God. He followed God. But somewhere along the way, I don't want to say the cares of the world, but more like the riches of the world kind of distracted him. He got greedy, avaricious. He started kind of doing things more for money instead of for God. So he used to be faithful, but no longer. But he still kind of had that reputation of talking to God. He knew a little bit of God. He knew some of God, and people would go to him. So they went. These messengers from Moab went. And to summarize it, they went to him, they talked to him, they offered him riches, and he knew something of the Israelites, not a whole lot, but he knew that they were from God. He should have just said no. Like sometimes we know what God wants for us, or what we should have, especially if we have a Bible. And anyway, Balaam, he did say, well, instead of sending them off right away, I think it was 2 or 3 times, he said, you know what, stay the night here, let me talk to God, because maybe he might get a different message. But no, the message from God was, no, send them away. My people are blessed. They're not going to be cursed by anybody, so just send them away, don't even go. And that happened a couple times. Of course, Balaam said, well, the attraction of all the glittering gold and jewels and diamonds was too much for him. It's like, well, go, but maybe. They came back, all right, stay, I'll check. Maybe God changed his mind. At any rate, he finally ended up going, because, well, in Psalm 81, 11, and 12, and I think I'll look that one up. Psalm, 81, verse 11 and 12. I was almost going to have one of you look it up and read it, but again, since as many of us who teach school, whenever we ask kind of spontaneously, hey, who'd like to read this for me? It's quiet. Kind of like, hey, any prayer requests? Quiet. Don't worry, I'm just like that. I'm very introverted myself, so I don't really speak up too much. So I understand that completely. Anyhow, where was I? Psalm 81, verses 11 and 12. But my people would not heed my voice, says God, and Israel would have none of me. So verse 12, so I gave them over to their own stubborn heart to walk in their own counsels. You see, God speaks to us. He gives us a message. He asks us. He wants us to do what's right, to obey him, to love him. But sometimes that's not the case with us. We want to do what we want to do, and eventually God says, well, go ahead. If you want to do it, go ahead, but I can't support this. I won't, my protection will be lifted. Much like a little bit earlier in this same chapter, the Israelites complained about God being their leader, and God said, all right, you want to stray out of the paths I've set, all right, my protection will be gone. And then all the fiery serpents, says the Bible, came and started killing a lot of the people until they cried out to Moses, and God told them, oh, make a bronze snake. If they look at it, they'll be healed. But it's because they kind of followed their own heart, their own selfish, naturally selfish heart. And we sometimes do that as well. Or maybe I should speak for myself. Not sometimes. I do that more than I should, definitely. And sometimes God leads me to it. But the great thing is he never leaves us. He doesn't abandon us. He might let us deal with all right, if you want to go that way, but he doesn't abandon us. He's still trying to reach us, still trying to protect us. And I'm not going to go into it, even though most people of Balaam remember that more than anything. But God was still there to talk to Balaam, to make sure that he knew he was God. Why? That little donkey guy, the donkey that Balaam was on, protected him from what was certain death from the angel of the Lord that was blocking the path. Even to the point where Balaam was beating that little donkey, why are you beating me, she says, afterwards, after her lips were loosened, and he actually had a conversation with this animal, I guess a conscious, out loud, verbal conversation. Anyhow, the good thing is that's when he found out, well, oh man, this is God's people. God was protecting Balaam like he protects you and me, even from ourselves as much as he can. And for a time, Balaam kind of heeded that. So much to the point that as Balaam met the king, he kept going on his way. God said, yeah, but you're going to bless my people, you're not going to curse them. Okay. Balaam went, met the king. The king said, all right, now let me take you to this place right here. You can see, not all of them, but a good chunk of these children of Israel. And then you could curse them. They made the sacrifices that they thought they had to make. Even Balaam knew something of, well, yeah, God requires sacrifice. All right, put some sacrifices, do this. And all right, let me see what God says. And he spoke a blessing for Israel. The king, no, I think you misunderstood. I wanted you to curse them, not to bless them. They thought, well, no, maybe there's a lot of people. And so the second time he took them around to another part where he could only see a little bit of the children of Israel. And I think Balaam actually thought initially that, oh man, how they're described, they're just a ragtag mob of people, just kind of like locusts scouring the earth or everything. But he saw they were well organized. They each had their tents, their places, the tabernacle. It was all a lot more professional, organized, ordained. So anyhow, the second time, same thing. Balaam ends up blessing the people, and then the king, as stubborn as he was, said, okay, maybe it's because you're seeing the army. How about we put over here where you can't really see them that well? And Balaam, here, look towards the wilderness, look out towards the desert, and then you can pronounce this. And that's what Balaam did. But the Spirit of God was upon him. Even though he was asked to pronounce a curse, Balaam actually pronounced another blessing that was, and then another blessing afterwards, prophesying everything that, in chapter 24, everything that the children of Israel would not only accomplish, but what they would do in the future. In chapter 24, and I'll read this one, chapter 24, verse 8, talking about the children of Israel, and actually a prophecy, says, God brings them out of Egypt. He has strength like a wild ox. He shall consume the nations, his enemies. He shall break their bones, pierce them with arrows. He bows down, he lies down as a lion, and as a lion, who shall rouse him? Blessed is he who blesses you, and curses he who curses you. That's a really strong endorsement of God's people. Sometimes, and that was the main thing that I wanted to share with you, that sometimes we go in with one attitude, and I think for a time, while Balaam had the Spirit of God in him, that changed his attitude completely. And then, the king went his separate way, Balaam went his separate way, although it wasn't too far, because his story still tragically, for the children of Israel, continues. We won't get into that one too much. But like I said, sometimes we go in with one idea and end up with a completely different one. Now, we don't always end up how we think it will. And to illustrate this, I had many years ago, when I was in college, young man, and then, so I lived and grew up in Napa, Napa City, up there in Northern California, a couple hours away from here. I think it's about a couple hours, And I think it was she my sister-in-law then, or just my girlfriend's sister? Anyway, she said, hey guys, do you want to help out in Elms Haven? What do you mean? Do you remember, were we still dating, or was she? Yeah, all right, so and I don't think that matters, but anyhow, we're still dating, and so my wife's sister says, hey, would you guys want to help volunteer at Elms Haven, give tours? What? You mean to be a docent or something? Yeah, what do you think? And I said, yeah, okay, sure. And so we started since before marriage, and we continued through our marriage, and even when we lived and moved from Napa to San Francisco, it's we can continue. The only time we stopped was 6 years later from that point, which is about 12 years backwards from this point. I'll let you do the math on that one. We actually stopped when we moved so far away, it was a little bit more cumbersome. But anyhow, every time, speaking for myself, that we would go, or that it's it's our turn to go, they need some help. They called us up to give tours. Usually it was on the weekend, Elms Haven. You've all been, well, I don't want to assume, but how many have been to Elms Haven? It's really nice. I like the house. I always think, if I ever build a house, I want to model it off of that one, except maybe have more than just the one upstairs bathroom. A little tiny tub and a little bit more. But I really like the secret stairs, going up to the room with her writing room with all the windows and all the light. That's really cool. Anyhow, I just enjoy that Victorian style building. At any rate, every time that we'd go, I'd be even when I lived in Napa and we were close by, I don't want to go, but we're kind of committed to. So my outlook was I don't want to go. It's too much, whatever it might be. It's too much time. I'm tired. Whatever it might be. Our outlook, or at least my outlook, was a certain thing. But when we got there, whether we had a tour group or not, which more often than not we did, and we were kept busy at the end, I tell you, it didn't end up how I thought it would end up, where I would be like even more tired or exhausted. If anything, I was refreshed. I think my wife can also agree that sometimes we might go in with one outlook, but end up with another, like, oh, this is, I'm so glad we did this, sharing with people and people sharing with us, and just being at peace up there. It was really nice. I really enjoyed that. And sometimes, again, a new year, school year, new experience, we might go in with expectations, positive, negative, neutral, because we have no idea what to expect. But God has a plan for us. His plan is to bless us and for us to be a blessing, and I think that's great. And he always is out there to protect us. The one thing, the children of Israel, they knew they were good, but I'm not sure how much they knew. Well, they had to, at least Moses had to know because he wrote it. But I'm not sure how much they knew that there were others out there to do them in, to try to curse them, to be against them. Well, they were being attacked left and right. So they had an inkling that they were, I don't want to say a scapegoat, but they were like a target. You might feel like you're a target. Like, I'm following God, I'm doing what God wants, but why is this so difficult? Why is it not working out? What's going on? Or maybe we don't even realize it because God might be protecting us. In Patriarchs and Prophets, page 287, the favor of God at this time manifested toward Israel during the time of them being attacked and Balaam trying to curse them, but he was blessed. The favor of God shown to Israel was to be an assurance of protection, protecting care for his obedient, faithful children of all ages. So when Satan inspires these evil people to go against us, we remember that God is for us. God's for us. Who could be against us? So I love that protection there. Getting that encouragement from God, the little blessings, big blessings, things to help us. I hope that's an encouragement for you. As I finish with a couple little stories to kind of illustrate this encouragement, I have to say, going to bring up our experience, for some of us, a shared experience of going to a teachers' convention in Phoenix in the middle of August. If you went on an airplane, unfortunately for me, I reserved or whatever late enough where I was pretty much the last person to board the plane. And I'm not petite, I'm kind of a big guy, a little tall, kind of wide. And as I'm going down, and the particular airline I went on, Southwest, you get to choose your seats depending on when you go in. And as I went in, I thought, all right, maybe I can get what was I thinking? Aisle seat, window seat, something on the edge, not in the middle, because it's like, come on. And no, when I got there, I was near the back. I also found out, I'll tell you in a bit, but I went in almost the very back row, like maybe a row from the back. Right in the center was the only last seat that was kind of left there, and I was riding the whole time, kind of squished like this, my feet in. I couldn't even stretch because the seats don't have a lot, there's not a lot of leg room. So it was really uncomfortable. Wasn't looking forward to it. The ride back was. And this is the encouraging part. I thought, well, let's see how it goes this time. I was able to reserve or check in a little bit earlier. But I tell you, it was great because I was actually able to get a seat in the emergency exit, which always has a little bit more leg room. Like, oh, this is great. But even before boarding, I met someone. I wore on that day, Thursday was the last day, shirt from last year's Senior Survival that my daughter Samantha went on, or Sammy went on, and I got a shirt. So I wore it like, yeah, I'll be comfy last day. And it says, I survived Senior Survival, Monterey Bay Academy at the bottom. So I wore that one, kind of advertising the school and everything. I didn't have a VHM shirt handy, but go VHM, but also MBA. And so I had it on, waiting there to board. A person says, oh, do you teach at MBA? No, I got this shirt, as I said, from a program my daughter went to. And he's like, oh, well, I actually went there. Really? Oh, wow. Couldn't really place him quite yet. Oh, when did you graduate? Oh, in 1993. I'm like, oh, whoa. So he was a senior in 93 when I was a junior in 93. because I graduated the next year in 1994. Way back. I won't even say that because like I was teaching in 94, which I'm sure some of you were. Adults and grown up and everything. Anyway, as we were talking, we were able to discover like, oh yeah, do you know this person, that person, the other? And I'll tell you what, one of the encouraging things was that, and it's really good, I love how Pastor Gregory, Daniel Gregory, the music ministry, the songs, that's great. I know music is powerful when Tim and when you guys get together, have the music program, it's really powerful because in our conversation as we're reminiscing about living in the dorm and all that stuff, he brought up, I'm not sure if he's Adventist anymore, he lives in Burbank. My flight actually went from Phoenix to Burbank and then up to San Jose. It wasn't a direct flight, which worked out fine actually, even better than I would have hoped. We were talking, he was right behind me, and so we were chatting and we said, oh yeah, remember in the boys' dorm, when we'd have chapel, we'd sing this song, and that was like, yeah, we'd really belt it out. Oh yeah, and then we're kind of humming it to each other. It's this one, right? Like, yeah, that one. It's a really good song. And it's always, when we're in the dorms, the guys, we always like sang it like full volume, doing like the call and response or the echo or whatever it is. But if we ever sang it in church with a whole student body, everyone's kind of quiet and meek, like do-do-do. It was Going Afar. Well, is that? Seeking the lost, yes, coming dream. And the part where we really went crazy in the dorm was going afar. All right, anyway, I should have, that would have been a good one to sing here, but anyhow, so that was really cool that song kind of also linked and encouraged and connected us, that music. It's like, oh yeah, that shared experience. Now, this last song we sang, when I was, again, every time when I was a young man, yeah, any time before today, I guess. But many, many years ago, I actually used to, at least on my credential it said, I was a volunteer chaplain for the California state prison system. This particular one was the Vacaville Correctional Medical Facility, CMF. And so I would go, I had it's called a brown card, even though it's kind of tan. And I would go in and, we do our prison ministries. And when you go there, again, the song that was really, it was great because men's prison, so all these men in the chapel would go Sabbath, and they'd always choose Just a Closer Walk with Thee. And it reminded me how we sang it really wonderfully. It's like, oh man, that brought back the memories as well. But when you hear these guys who come to church, to our church on that day, because as you know, well, maybe you don't know, but in prison, you get a pass to go to different church services, Saturdays and Sundays, different church groups come in. And a lot of times the prison, they offer food or something. And so prisoners, just to get a break from being in their cell or the yard or to get some food, they would go to church. But we didn't have that much extra stuff like, oh, here's some food. Some would come in for some time off, but the ones who were there were really, for the most part, they're really there to learn about Jesus. And when you would hear them sing that with so much enthusiasm and I guess hope for the future, as I said, that was a correctional medical facility. Many of these people had, well, there were several for life sentences, but others, because of their medical condition, they would not live long enough to see freedom. Well, from the prison, from their suffering they would. So having them sing was such an encouragement because they knew they were where they were at. They knew God had a plan for them. They knew they followed, much like Balaam, their own path. But God didn't abandon them, just like he doesn't abandon us. Our memory verse says, behold, or scripture, behold, I have received a command to bless. He is blessed and I cannot reverse it. Just like God is blessing us, we don't even know what it is. We also have the chance now, as the school year, academic year, in our lives from this point forward, we have an opportunity to bless others. So I hope that you can be a blessing, much like whether it's through music that's a blessing, through the hymns we sing, the songs we reminisce, whether it's, for some of us who met old colleagues and friends from faraway places at a convention, or maybe, if you're a teacher, maybe a student's returning, it's like, or you'll see if you're a student, maybe a friend, maybe it's a brand new experience, but God is seeking to bless us. And I hope that as we go out, we can be open and receptive to that blessing. And sometimes if we aren't, know that God doesn't give up on us. He doesn't leave us alone. And then maybe we too, when we sing, can sing with that enthusiasm and that we're blessed. God has a plan for us. I might not know what it is. I don't feel like it's going like it should be. But God's plan is indeed active in our lives, in your lives, in our hearts. So that's all I have to share with you. Let's have a closing prayer. If you don't mind, I'll lead us out. Dear Lord, thank you so much that we are blessed by you, Lord. Help us take that to not only have encouragement for ourselves, but encourage and bless others around us. Help us wherever you lead us to, that we can be a blessing to those around us, whether it's a ministry, whether it's a job, whether it's school, a relationship, whatever situation, Lord, help us to be a blessing to those around us, knowing that Satan is trying to push us down, but you are greater than he is, and you are pulling us up. You are encouraging us. So keep us safe. Bless each person here. We love you, Lord. In your name, amen. All right. So I think that's it. We're not having any closing hymn or anything like that. So you are free to enjoy this Sabbath day and the blessings God has in store. Happy Sabbath.